57 years later, Star Trek's best, the original series episode, still doesn't get the respect it deserves. Star Trek. The original series has plenty of episodes that are often referenced, quoted, and given as examples of the show's brilliance, but there's one particular episode that is unfairly ignored. The cast of Star Trek, the original series, was responsible for bringing the franchise's earliest stories to life, and many of those episodes continue to influence the modern-day spin-off shows. While some TOS episodes stick out as easy to identify for their impact on the franchise's impressive future, some incredibly deserving efforts are left to languish in the shadows. Every Star Trek show owes the original series a debt of gratitude. If the William Shatner-led saga hadn't been so well received, it's quite possible that Star Trek, The Next Generation, and every other spin-off that forms the entire Star Trek timeline wouldn't ever have happened. The innovative 1960s space opera established countless tropes and traditions that can still be witnessed in the more recent Star Trek projects, and the show's best episode doesn't get enough credit for its contributions in that respect. Why The Devil in the Dark is Star Trek, the original series' best episode. Star Trek, the original series Season 1, Episode 25, The Devil in the Dark, is very possibly the show's best effort across all 3 seasons. It breaks the formula in several notable ways, and they all improve the experience. Not only are there hardly any scenes aboard the USS Enterprise, but the crew's tense-away mission to locate and kill the Horta is made even more unnerving by its off-screen antics. The episode also brilliantly pivots at the last possible moment, revealing there's no actual villain, only different points of view and language barriers. In a show that is largely a sci-fi adventure story, The Devil in the Dark slips into the psychological thriller genre. Although the appearance of the silicon-based alien hasn't aged particularly well, it certainly looks off-putting and non-humanoid enough to elicit a response of discomfort in its audience, even today. The slow-burning narrative is pretty hard to predict, which makes watching until the end an absolute must and impossible to resist. With Season 1 being so long itself, plus the addition of 2 more seasons to follow, not every Star Trek, the original series episode, can remain in the zeitgeist. Although several TOS installments are still in the spotlight today, The Devil in the Dark simply hasn't made the cut. Granted, there are a lot of great episodes in the very first Star Trek show, so the competition to stick out is fierce. Therefore, it's perhaps not a massive surprise that an episode that focuses on story rather than action has fallen by the wayside. That being said, The Devil in the Dark does scrape into IMDb's top 10 rated episodes of Star Trek, the original series, and almost every one of the 9 entries above is inarguably iconic. So even if the episode can't quite hold its own in popular culture and general conversations about the show, it's at least satisfying to know its quality is respected in some very important ways. On the other hand, with a rating of 3rd August 2010, The Devil in the Dark is still shockingly underrated for how great it is. Although Star Trek, the original series episodes like Mirror, Mirror, have made a much more measurable impact on the larger franchise, The Devil in the Dark has influenced the sci-fi saga in slightly less noticeable ways. However, that doesn't mean they're less important. The episode had numerous moments and themes that would go on to grow and become a part of the shows that were produced after, and those that continue to be made to this day. In short, the franchise's nuances about right versus wrong may never have evolved to what they are without. The Devil in the Dark. Star Trek, the original series TOS, broke barriers and set the stage for one of the most expansive sci-fi universes in entertainment history. Its 3 seasons, airing from 1966 to 1969, have birthed some of the most iconic moments in episodes in television history, from the dramatic to the philosophical. While certain episodes such as The City on the Edge of Forever or Amok Time are frequently celebrated, there's one particular episode that continues to fly under the radar despite being one of the most unique and thought-provoking. That episode is The Immunity Syndrome, premiering during the 2nd season in 1968. The Immunity Syndrome presents a near-perfect blend of classic science fiction elements, crew camaraderie, and the existential challenges that Star Trek often explored. Yet, for reasons largely tied to timing and possibly its tone, the episode has often been overshadowed by flashier, more action-packed episodes. But 57 years later, it's time to recognize The Immunity Syndrome for what it truly is, a masterpiece of speculative fiction that embodies the spirit of TOS at its finest. The setup: a race against extinction, the immunity syndrome opens with the crew of the USS Enterprise receiving news of the sudden disappearance of an entire Vulcan science vessel, the Intrepid. This already sets a different tone for the episode, one of solemnity and suspense. Unlike many of the more famous episodes that have clear antagonists or villains, this one is about an overwhelming force of nature. The Enterprise encounters a massive, single-celled organism, essentially a space-dwelling amoeba, that threatens to consume not just the crew, but potentially entire star systems. This framing sets up a situation that is both deeply existential and thrilling. There is no direct villain to fight, only a vast and incomprehensible organism that has the potential to wipe out entire civilizations. The stakes are immense, but they feel deeply personal, as the crew must navigate not only the external threat, but also their internal struggles to survive. The heart of Star Trek, science and survival. What makes the immunity syndrome particularly special is its emphasis on the science part of science fiction. The crew isn't just blasting their way out of trouble or relying on brute force. Instead, they are using reason, knowledge, and teamwork to solve the problem. Spock and McCoy's ongoing rivalry plays a central role in the episode, but this time it feels particularly charged. The tensions between Spock's cold logic and McCoy's emotional, human-centered approach reach their peak here, with each man advocating different strategies to survive the threat. This episode is also one of the best showcases for the dynamic between Spock and Kirk. When Spock volunteers for a dangerous mission to fly a shuttle into the organism, Kirk's concern for his friend becomes palpable. There's no sentimental dialogue or overt displays of emotion, but William Shatner's restrained performance and Leonard Nimoy's stoicism create a powerful undercurrent of mutual respect and deep friendship. It's Star Trek's central trio at their best: Spock, Kirk, and McCoy, three distinct personalities whose interplay forms the emotional core of the show. Philosophy amidst the chaos. Another aspect of the immunity syndrome that deserves more recognition is its philosophical underpinnings. While many episodes of TOS explore grand themes of morality, war, and human nature, this episode centers on survival and the fear of the unknown. The giant amoeba isn't evil or malicious, it's simply acting according to its nature, much like any organism would. The crew's battle isn't one of good versus evil, but of life versus an uncaring, indifferent universe. This kind of existential dread was rare in television at the time, and it lends the episode a gravity that many others lack. The episode's climax, where Spock risks his life to obtain crucial data that will allow the Enterprise to destroy the organism, reinforces Star Trek's recurring theme of sacrifice for the greater good. It's not a dramatic space battle or a showy villain confrontation, but a quiet, methodical, and deeply human sequence where intellect triumphs over brute force. Why doesn't it get the respect it deserves? So why has the immunity syndrome been left out of the conversation when discussing the best TOS episodes? Part of the answer may lie in the fact that it lacks the immediate, iconic moments of episodes like Mirror, Mirror or Balance of Terror. There's no alternate universe, no evil twin, no morally ambiguous villain. Instead, it's a slow-burning, introspective episode that requires viewers to invest in the philosophical dilemmas and interpersonal dynamics of the crew. The pacing, while brilliant, also may have contributed to its relative obscurity. In an era where faster, more action-driven,